You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Just hit record, Diana. Just start it now.
I
Just
did.
Go ahead, start it.
It started.
Okay, geez. Let's start it. Okay, all right. Well, hey, people-centric leaders. Those of you who are joining us and thinking, wow, they didn't edit that out. I was actually playing a role. We were acting. I was acting just now, just to show you an overreaction to something. Diana, did you believe me? Did you think I was mad?
Yeah. I did. I'm scared for my job and I am gonna call HR.
Okay. That's also you. Unfortunately. So, you can fill out a complaint to yourself, you can interview yourself, and then you can give me your recommendation on what you think you
Well,
should.
maybe you and HR have to sit down now and have a conversation about that reaction.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fine. All right. Philip's with us here on this. So you've heard Diana already. Now Philip's here. Philip, what was your reaction to my reaction?
Wow.
Jumping in. Just hit
My
record.
reaction to your reaction was shock. It was horror, dare I say, bordering disgust and disappointment. But I think we're okay now. I also will talk to HR. Yeah, belief. It really hurt my vision. What are our vision around here? What in the world? What people valuing was that? I am shook to the core. No.
Shook to the core. Why?
Why?
Nay, sir.
Need help now. Yeah, this is very traumatizing, and I'm terrified for my job. I will never speak up in a meeting or join a podcast again. That's all I have to say about the matter.
Perfect. Okay. So we staged this argument. We actually just really love each other and we always get along. We never fight like that at all. Ever. Ever. You can't see Diana's face right now. I wish you could see Diana's face because it's only showing me because I'm the only one talking. But
Well, I was thinking about it. Like we have disagreements, but I don't know that anyone's ever been yelled at. That seems extreme.
Bethany only yells at our engagement team when we really need it. And it's usually only on Wednesday afternoons. So other than that, we've been fine. It's never happened.
Great.
that's when Bethany does it, it's over. It feels extreme because Bethany can be fierce. She's so kind and so nice, and then she'll suddenly like, also,
Yeah,
your baby's ugly.
it
And it's
really
like,
hurts
whoa.
when we try to steal some of her dessert. So it's probably warranted, right? Like, oh, that tiramisu looks really good. Then it comes out.
Yes. So just so you all think, the listeners right now, don't think, where are you going with this? Today we're talking about reactions, how we react to things that happen to us. And it came from a recent conversation that Diana had. And I've got a good example, Diana, before I even go into that part of it, is you said, like, we don't really fight a lot. One of the worst fights that you and I have ever been in, and you know exactly where I'm going with this, was in a car. And it was like early on, like we were working together.
It was our very first trip together. I think I'd worked for you for maybe 2 weeks. It was really early on.
It wasn't 2 weeks. Was it 2 weeks in?
I think so. We were still in the old office. I think so. It was very early on.
Yeah, we were driving to Kansas City to go visit somebody, right?
I think it was Oklahoma. Was it Kansas City? But
I'm
okay, yeah.
pretty sure it was Kansas City because every time I drive by that one spot in Kansas City that we were at, I'm pretty sure like I remember that because I remember the
You have situational trauma.
situational trauma.
No.
There's like these kind of hills, almost like bluffs, like right next to where we were, and that's we had to turn off the highway to get off into this spot. Well, yeah, we were driving, and I just asked Diana for directions, and Diana asked me like Diana's reaction was as if I had asked her for like, could you please like replace my brain or something like that? Could you fashion a world curing medicine out of grass clippings, something like that. It was like, could you tell me how to get to this client? Is what I
That's
remember.
not exactly true. You said we had Siri, or iPhone or whatever. We had Google Maps. I don't remember what application, but the thing was telling us where to go. And you were like, tell me where to go. And I was like, but the thing is telling you where to go. It knows. I don't know. It knows. I don't.
It tells you the next step, right? So it's like turn left, now turn right, now turn left. And if I'm navigating for somebody, I have a belief like, okay, I could like scan ahead a little bit and look, see where's it going to go next. So then I can say like, you're going to get off the highway here and then you're going to have to turn right. So that I'm giving you 2 steps ahead so you know which lane to get into. You know what's coming and you're prepared.
I don't do that. I just let the machine tell you where to go.
On the topic of prepared, I think we are clearly far away from this experience that we're all emotionally prepared to talk about it and are clearly past it.
Yeah, this happened 10 years ago or something like 10 years ago. So the quote that Diana gave me, so we're bringing this up. This is why we're talking about this. Is the quote Diana gave me, which I think is really, really good, is when Diana said that whenever you react to something that's above a 5, or you believe that when people react above a 5, so a 1 to 10, right? So a 1 means you're not having much reaction at all. A 10 means like you're over the top reactive, right? So a 5 is like an average reaction to it. If you're anything above an average reaction to something, then you're not reacting to the actual thing that happened. You're reacting to something else. Like it's triggering something else in you. So like I'm wondering, like in that drive, we both triggered each other at the same time. It was a mutual triggering because it was like mutual anger, like almost instantly. So I'm curious, like what were you reacting to? What's your problem, Diana? That's my question.
Okay. First of my main problem, my main problem is that I have zero sense of direction and I'm awful at directions. I'm a terrible navigator. I'm a terrible driver. Like I need to passenger princess and be done. Like that's the deal. The second thing is that we were using Dawn's iPhone. I also don't iPhone. I'm not good with that tech. I don't understand it. And then the last thing was like he was talking to me, talking over the person giving the instructions. Like it was like in 400 feet, turn right. And he was like, where do I go? And I was like, in 400 feet, turn right. And he was like, I know that. And I was like, well, then why are you asking me where to go? I didn't understand. I didn't understand that he wanted more than what the thing was telling him.
Yeah. So that's really good. So it was more, it wasn't just the question. So you have to put it into context. Diana had just started with us, hadn't been with us very long. Diana came into a situation where we probably shouldn't have had a company. Like Diana walked in. That's why Diana is a co-founder because what you found was not ready for prime time yet, right? We were in bad shape. I remember you still saying like, "Hey, what's our phone number?" And I started laughing like, "We don't have a phone number. Where do I put files? We put files over here. How do we bill our clients?" Well, when we think about it, we just kind of send them a we send them a letter. Sometimes we call them. Sometimes they send us money. Sometimes they don't. We just try to get stuff done. So I mean, we had zero systems, zero processes. So here comes Diana, who's excellent at all that stuff. Like, right? So all that stuff, you're like, no, I got it. No problem. I got it. We don't have a filing cabinet. I'll go get a filing cabinet. Right? We told a story on a recent episode where like we had a desk that was missing a part and you went to like Home Depot or wherever we got it from and like took the model apart and took the parts off the desk and told the person like, I'm taking this. We already bought this. It should work. And I've been having a horrible time getting this. Now you guys can figure out where to get the part. And we took it back. Like Diana does stuff like that and does it super calmly and totally fine. So what you're saying, Diana, is you were kind of, I hate the word triggered because it's got just a lot of language.
But I was. I mean, I had a response to stimuli, which is just triggering.
And it was, I asked you a thing that was the first time I had asked you for something that you were like, I'm not comfortable within this.
It's not my skill set. Not a good thing to ask Diana.
Don't ask me that. Don't ask
me that one.
So then like my response was also a little bit over the top too, because in my mind I was like, okay, I feel like I know that we don't have our stuff together. I know that we're trying to work through this stuff. So Diana's got her stuff together. So it's a little bit like, well, Diana doesn't have it together and Diana doesn't know what the directions are. Like it was a shit like, oh crap. Like then who does? So it wasn't just like the directions. It was also like, what else don't you know in that moment? Because we were still building trust. Like you can't tell me whether we're turning left or right up here or not. Like you can't, but you're the one that's responsible for our money and all of the stuff. Like what else don't you know right now? And I like reacted to all this stuff, like losing it. Oh, Diana's crying, laughing right now. It's all this stuff. While Philip's just watching in horror, going, "What is happening?"
Oh God. I'm glad you joined when you did, Philip. It was really rough in the
Oh,
beginning.
oh, I'm glad. When I came and saw how organized things were, I thought, man, this is so nice. And I love the origin stories because they also, well, earlier too, when you both started kind of, whether it was, Kansas City or Tulsa or wherever, I love that 10 years later, and you both still really do care about that story. And it was super impactful because of all those early thoughts that you have, right? I imagine too, it's like, I don't know, was it a first client meeting?
It
Or was
was.
that's it, like that's added pressure already? Like, why are we
It
talking
was.
about left and right when we have an important client to see, Don, to your point. So I love this story. I'm here for it.
You're here for it. Well, I appreciate your support, Philip, and thanks for taking my side on it. I really appreciate that. I think that this is helpful. And this is why we're doing the whole episode on this. Is we've talked about this concept of emotional intelligence before, right? The idea of emotional intelligence is whenever an emotion strikes you, right? It kind of short circuits the logical part of your brain. The emotions flood you, and then we react to a thing. So the idea of emotional intelligence is we know the things that trigger ourselves, and then we learn how to work through that. And then also we learn the things that trigger others and we work through that. So we're watching for those things, those overreactions for ourselves. So I love the idea of saying, like, if you're reacting, it kind of gives you almost like an informal score. Like, I don't know where different people's fives are, fours or ones or tens or whatever, but if you react higher than a five, then you might want to think about, why did I react that way? You can look for the trigger and then you understand something and then maybe you can respond to it. So like but let's talk about that piece ourselves, because we talked before we jumped on for this of like examples we've seen other people, for ourselves. Where is that valuable and how does that help us moving forward?
I learned this from my therapist years and years ago, and I think it's because I generally don't react very strongly to a lot of things. I have a lower five than a lot of people, like a smaller five than a lot of people. And so when I did go to my therapist for this situation, I was like, I am freaking angry, and I was bright red and steam was coming off of my head. She was like, okay, you don't generally react above a five, and you're reacting above a five. And you just told me a story that, like any other situation or person or circumstance, would be a two. So, what's going on with this person, this situation, this place you've been put in that's making you react at a nine? Because I don't think it warrants a nine. And when she kind of said that, I was like, oh, okay, well, it's not about what happened in that moment. It's about the 15 injustices that happened before that. And I just now am like really, really mad about all of those other things that have happened. And maybe I need to evaluate that and say, how do I fix all of the previous injustices so I don't keep reacting at a nine? So yeah, it was more of a learning moment for me in that time. Yeah.
So it helps you get to the root cause of like what was really creating this for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I started looking at it for others, right? There are times where I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure that reaction was above a five for you, and I need to know what else is going on. So it's really helped in our work when I am talking or coaching or meeting in a group and someone has a visceral reaction. I can be like, okay, you're very mad about that thing, but that thing isn't that big of a deal. So, like, what's really going on? And so it helps me dig a little deeper to see where things are really bubbling up and surfacing.
It's an interesting point. I hadn't really even applied it to that because we do it so much, because we get a lot of visceral reactions from people. That sounds really, if you're a potential client and you're listening to this, you're like, what? Wait, what? You get a lot of, yeah. I mean, with the stuff we talk about is a lot of times it's personal, and sometimes we have to, you're upset about something and we're a good place to vent to. And, we'll be surprised sometimes what will trigger that for folks and to get that reaction. What's the downside of having that reaction? Like Diana, we had a good, I mean, I think our example was really good in terms of like that interaction. What's the downside to having that reaction if we don't know where that even comes from? Is there a consequence for the reaction itself? Or is it a healthy reaction?
Well, I think it depends on the situation. I think for us, it turned out healthy. It could have gone a different way, right? If I hadn't taken a step back and said, okay, why did I react that way? It's because I genuinely don't like feeling dumb. I don't like, nobody does, but I really don't. And so that's why I reacted that way. It wasn't about Dawn asking for directions. It was about Diana's insecurity of feeling dumb in front of her new boss. Like that's where that came from. It wasn't about Dawn. And so I think if I had switched that and said like, well, Dawn's just a jerk, then you and I would not be where we are today, right? We would not have built what we built and be the friends that we are and have the company that we have and the relationship that we have. If I had just instantly said, well, Dawn's just a jerk, instead of thinking that reaction was not exactly normal, where did it come from?
Yeah, yeah, I like that example a lot because it's funny, we've never really unpacked it either. We've talked about that situation a lot, but we've never gone back and unpacked it. We've had other interactions where I know that you don't think or I don't think you think I'm a jerk. And you know that I definitely don't think you're incompetent on things or stupid on things. I think you're brilliant on almost everything except for left, right, north, south.
Don't ask for directions, bro. It won't work.
That's not the space I'm going to help you with. And we all have that. But I think that you're right. There's a lot of danger in that because if you have the reaction, you don't recognize, first of all, that, okay, I'm at like an 8 right now, then you're going to react again. It's going to happen again somewhere else. You're going to have that reaction. I can think of a time where I was relatively unhappy with my job at 3M at different times. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it was bad. But I can remember sometimes where I'd be like, okay, this is a time where there's people that I don't like working with. Some people, there's situations that are frustrating to me. And I can remember one day driving to work, thinking about a meeting I was about to have and being just really like, okay, this meeting's going to come up and there's one person in there who's going to make it a lot harder and they're going to say something and they're going to challenge everything that I bring up and it's going to be really bad. And I was stewing on that on the drive in and then, got to the office, went to the conference room, sat down in the meeting and the meeting started. And the person who I had just spent 20 minutes in my head thinking about anticipating what they were going to say started to ask a question and I jumped all over them. Like I like sprung like across the table well, of course you know how you'd have a question about that because you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I just jumped like all over them. Like and the other people in the room, it was like then afterwards they were like, Don, what happened there? Like you just suddenly ambushed that person. Why did you just suddenly ambush that one person? They didn't do anything to deserve it. I'm like, oh, they were about to, in my head. And then I heard myself say that, and I'm like, wait, that's dumb. That was a bad reaction to that. But that reaction that did damage the relationship with that person. Like that person I never did. We never really worked effectively together. And I don't know where that started. That could have started in that moment. It could have started from a moment before. But you can see where those relationships could have spun off. Diana, if you and I had looked at it and said, well, you don't support me and you don't want to do things like that, and you're like, well, you think I'm dumb and I can't do the things, then that would not have worked out. And if we had to work together, we wouldn't, right? We would just never, we would fight each other on it.
I like that example in both of your stories, really. It's kind of showing, I think your emotions, whether we talk about emotional intelligence is acknowledging and managing your own, those of others. Super easy to say, super hard to do. But really, another way to think of it, your emotions are almost just like a dashboard for your fears or what you're defending in this context, right? Like these negative examples are you, right or wrong, I have this story where you are doing something or have done something that ties to where I'm least comfortable or something I'm most trying to protect. And I think that's when your reaction, it jumps out strangely and weirdly. For me, this spring at Sunrise Rotary, my wife sang the national anthem at this big community event. She crushed it, and she was in a lot of pain that day due to some health stuff. And so super proud. I gave happy dollars being like, hey, I'm so proud of my wife. And a lot of people were like, she was amazing. And our Sarge stood up and she had gotten one word wrong. That was it. One little word. No one commented on it except this Sarge in our Sunrise Rotary. And he brought a spotlight onto this word. And normally he and I are fine, but I had this like deep voice that came out in front of everyone. I said his name, was like, "Don't you dare." And I realized when I finished saying it, the whole room just kind of, it's like, the cartoons when it's like blink, blink, you hear the blink. That was just very out of character. And same when I thought, oh, you know what? I'm gonna. And so later came up, hey, Bryant, we're good. This is why I reacted so strongly, letting you know. And thanks for catching that one word, you jerk. No. And so in the workplace, to your point, Don, if you have those though, and then hopefully before they get to an 8, even if you're bordering 4s and 5s and 6s, there could be good reason, but you're going to scare people away and not be effective in your processing of decisions you need to make as a leader if you ignore that decision dashboard or your emotional dashboard.
That's really good. I think that it's also good to note, like in your example, a little bit, like it sounds like you kind of caught yourself a little bit, right? Like, so sometimes it's not even, you might react, and the reaction might not be like an actual visceral outside reaction. It might be an inside reaction. You might be like, wow, I'm really upset about that. And then maybe you didn't react. Maybe you did hold it back. Maybe you're not the type of person to express those things, but you might get angry in a moment like, why did I get so angry about that? I was thinking about it was just Memorial Day here, and so I went out, and both my kids came over, and we said, well, we can get some lunch, then I'm going to grill out for dinner. Like, where do you guys want to go? And we ended up going to like McDonald's, which was McDonald's, not my favorite place to go. But they both wanted it. It was okay. So both went, and I pulled back it's one of those McDonald's that has the 3 drive-through windows. Have you seen those? They have 3. I just don't fast food enough to know there were Did you know there were 3, Diana? You're nodding.
Yeah, I mean, certain places, especially in Springfield, I feel like the one on like Battlefield has had 2 or 3 forever.
So I mean, I'm not just talking about like the split where like you go 2 different places to order. I'm talking about like after you order, there's 3
Oh,
physical windows on the side of the restaurant. There's 3 of them.
oh, no, I don't fast food enough, apparently. No clue. Yeah.
Like I've seen 2, I've never seen 3. Like I
Mhm.
remember I grew up with 1, right? There's 1. You go to the window and you
One,
pay. You go.
totally.
And then like some places like McDonald's started doing the 2. And the 2 was like, okay, you pay here and then you go here. And apparently that's faster. Okay. So then the third, this one had 3. So I drove past the first one. I didn't even look at the first one. Like I didn't even notice the first one. I was looking at the next 2. And my son says, Jeff says, well, aren't you going to pay? And I said, like, yeah, I'm driving up the window. He goes, no, 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 the pay window's back there. And I looked in the rearview mirror and I saw the other window and I'm like, oh, there's 3 windows. And so I stopped and backed up. I had time to back up so nobody was behind me because they were still ordering. And then paid there. And then he would not stop. He was like, the window, it's really obvious. I said, oh, I saw pickup 1 and pickup 2 there. And he goes, yeah, well, you didn't see the obvious, that's just as big a sign that says pay here, pickup 1 and pickup 2. Like there's 2 pickups. The idea is like if they're trying to make your chicken nuggets or something, instead of pulling off the side and they have to walk out, you just pull to the second window and then they can let people through a little bit faster. It's a good idea. But I just never seen that before. So, but he did, and I'm like, oh no, I just saw the signs. And he's like, well, the signs are really, really big, and I can't believe, as smart as you are, that you wouldn't know that. And he just kept picking at me, and I was sitting there just getting like just mad, like inside, just the rage was filling. The rage was filling, and finally, like he said, do you need signs to get home later or something like that? He said something else, and I just looked at him and I said, I think it's time for you to change your tone if you want the rest of this day to go well. Like I said, I think it's what I said it. Very dad-like, right? You need to change your tone. My son, by the way, is 22 years old. So just for some context of that, he's not a little kid, right?
And I'm just going to put this out there in the world. Snarky Harky came from somewhere. You know what I feel like maybe he learned this from someone. I don't know. I'm just going to put it there. We'll just leave
Like
that.
you're saying that there's another member of my family who sometimes leans into things, or is that what you're saying?
Just a little bit. Uh-huh. Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'll try to find out who that person is. That sounds like the first person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like unpacking that and figuring out like why did I react so strongly to that? Because it could have just been like, hey, stop pushing me on that kind of thing. Like, what does that look like? And all that. And some of it I think was just literally like the situation in the moment. I don't think there was a deep, like reserved hatred towards my son on that. But I do think I did not want to be at McDonald's in the first place. I did not want to be there. So pulling up there and then getting to pay for something that you don't want, that you're about to eat something that you really don't want, and then getting slammed for it at the same time, right? That is a little bit hard, but I think it's just a simple example of this. So it may not be the reaction outwardly, but if you react inwardly or outwardly and you're above a 5, it's not a bad idea to unpack it. You may get a huge insight for yourself, like Diana said, of like, wow, I don't like to look like I'm dumb or not feel like I know what I'm doing. That's a big insight. That's a great spot for you to know and explore, or it could be something that's, a little bit less like, oh, I was just in that moment, I wasn't happy with something else, and then I reacted to the other thing that you never saw me react to because they said, hey, let's do McDonald's. And I was just like, okay. I didn't say like, oh, I hate McDonald's, I really don't want to go. So they didn't know that. So then it creates misunderstanding, then it creates miscommunication, all of those different areas. So yeah, that's good. Other insights on this for the team? I think we wanted to make this one a simple one. We like to drop these simple concepts for you all to pick up.
Yeah, I think I've been doing it for a while now, and it's hard to it's hard to dig deeper about what it is. So start like once you recognize it, once you're like, oh, that was a hard reaction, then sometimes you'll start to justify it. Like, no, I should have reacted. I should be mad that Don thinks I'm stupid and was a jerk about it, right? Like, but I think the key is to like not go that direction and try to figure out where it came from instead, because it is easy to be like, no, that reaction was justified. I should feel that way. And again, you should feel the feelings, feel your feelings. That's not what I'm saying to do, but to just like don't think it's the other person. Try to figure out where it's coming from for you. And I think that's the hardest part of that.
That's super hard, but that's also the empowering decision. Like some people hear that and say, well, like you're not taking control of that situation. It's not your fault. They came to you and they were being a jerk, so you can be a jerk back. And it's like, no, you get to choose whether you be a jerk back or not. You get to choose to say, okay, maybe, because if you realize, like, if I reacted the way that I reacted with my son and I said those things, did that impact the rest of our day together? And the answer is yes, it could have, right? It could have. On the drive home, I recognized too, I was like, wow, I kind of shut him down because he was getting kind of quiet. And I kind of re-engaged him and started joking around with him. And I think I kind of patched that up a little bit, but like it wouldn't hurt us a lot for me to go back and say, by the way, I snapped at you after the McDonald's thing. You kind of hit me mercilessly on that stuff, which you're absolutely right. And my family is not an unusual thing. And it comes from me if nobody else picked that up. Like we look for weaknesses. We're hyenas. And then we jump on those weaknesses and we exploit them. That's the way we do things. I'm saying that a little bit tongue in cheek, but
it's a ginger defense mechanism, isn't it?
it is. It's because everything else is trying to kill us, including the sun. Like we can't go outside during the daytime, and we really can't go out at night either because it's hard to be me. That's the point. Thanks for bringing that up, Philip. I appreciate that. Yeah. What do you mean?
I'm still here for you. That's okay. That's it. Yeah. One of the pieces of that I was thinking too, it's I like how it's saying it's empowerment. I'm not the first person to call out jerky behavior. Usually, because I think I don't know if it's worth it. Like I will address conflict if it's worth it. But a lot of the time, the same idea, people are all a little screwy and usually trying to do their best thing. But it does get difficult to your point when it is, how to address it. I think it's one thing to manage yourself, not easy. But then the second piece, if you see someone, and I think we hear a lot of leaders say that, yeah, I'm noticing so-and-so is acting differently, or they're just generally on edge. Maybe there's a lot more 5+ behavior coming from them. And our question would be like, oh, well, what's going on? Like, I am not going near that situation, right? Like, I am not going to ask or touch that. And it could be the fear of, I don't want to make them worse. I don't want to be the problem or the reason. 69% of managers in general say, I'm afraid of talking to my employees. And I think some of this stems from that. Like, man, I'm perceiving something's off, but I don't know what to do next with that. And I think a piece of this being a leader, to your point, if you can take that, it doesn't mean it's true. If you don't let your emotions or other emotions define and manage your decisions and how you're thinking, which is the biggest challenge in all of this, I think. But like, let them be there, but then make decisions above those emotions, whether they're yours, someone else's, your team. And I think that really pulls into then what do you do next? And like, how do you walk forward with big emotions? Because they'll be there. but looking beyond those.
I love that point, Philip. I think that's really, really brilliant because it's this idea that when when you see that reaction, it tends to shut down the communication, so then you don't learn the next step, uh, and you don't see it. And we see that a lot on also problems. It shuts down the opportunities that people have in businesses. Like one common one that I hear that tends to be an over five reaction is like, oh, this new generation. I'm so tired of this new generation at work. They're all lazy and they don't have the work ethic, and I just hate it. And it's like, wow. That was a strong reaction to that. What's really going on here? And I think it's a variety of answers for different people, but maybe it's you're afraid because there's no one that's going to take over the role because you haven't done a good job of it. Maybe you haven't been passing on information to the next group. Maybe it's because you have avoided a bunch of difficult conversations with people who do have over five reactions and you haven't held them accountable to something. Maybe you're avoiding accountability because you saw their reaction. And maybe that's causing you to have an even bigger reaction, right? Unspoken problems tend to build, they fester, and they create over five reactions that build something. So look for those over fives. They're not easy things to look at. There are moments that can be really, really challenging. It's emotional, right? It's something that really triggers you. But or it's also our brain's way of telling us like you should spend some more time with this. You should dive into this a little bit. You should understand why did you react that way? Why did I react that way? Not why did the other person? Remember, like Diana said, why did I react that way? It's point the finger to yourself and what could I have done differently to handle that situation? And then I also like Diana, like in our original story, it was like two minor over five reactions colliding into each other that which also creates a lot, right? It kind of multiplies that effect. So watch out for that. If you're having a little bit of a bad day and you show up and you're sixing some of your reactions and you run into somebody else who's having a bad day and they're sixing some of their reactions, then you might add up. 6 + 6 might equal 9, so be careful.
I was going to ask, how did that end? Because you're on the road, your story left us with you in the median, not sure where to turn. You eventually got there, or you just came back to Springfield? What happened?
I don't remember. I know we got there. I don't remember being mad for very long. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
don't think, I mean, it wasn't a knockout drag out fight for sure. Like,
No, but it was one of the most heated fights we've ever had.
I mean, it was a like, well, why can't you do that? And it was, oh, well, why don't you just do that? It was that kind of a
Yeah.
discussion. You just
Mhm.
listen to your phone. You're talking over your own phone. I understand that. I'm like, you have my phone. Like she was holding it. Like she had the phone. Like I didn't have it on the screen. It was long enough ago. It was
It
before
was a
like you
long
could
time.
see it. So I'm like, I just don't know which way I'm going or if the turn's coming up or anything. It's like, if you just be quiet, the phone will tell you. And I'm like, I want you to tell me. Tell me.
I am the CEO. I like that story doesn't have a bow on it either. I think maybe sometimes people hear context like this, content, and they're like emotional intelligence. What are you saying? I'm supposed to be like this perfect therapist everywhere I go, and everything thing ends with this beautiful inspiration. It's like, no, no, that is not, that doesn't, emotional intelligence does not necessarily lead to that. It doesn't have to look like that.
Yeah. Fortunately, we had other wins that probably
Yeah.
overcame that, right?
Yeah. And I think we already had built some trust. We already liked each other and thought each other was enjoyable to be around for the most part, minus this little interaction. So I think that helped too. So we were already digging the well before we needed it. And then we needed it. And we probably took too much water out of that well. And then we had to fill it back up.
Yeah. Yeah. Which goes back to that grace idea, right? That we talk a lot about is the idea that sometimes we have to give each other grace because somebody might be coming in. We collide into each other all the time, and it does not take a lot. And those little situations don't have to become bigger situations, but sometimes they can.
I don't think we got the client. It was a sales call, and I don't think we got the client.
I was when Philip said that, that was actually my first thought. And I was trying to remember like the client interaction. I really don't remember much about it, but I don't think we did get that one. And I don't think that conversation helped much, Diana, frankly, going into
We've
it.
gotten others since then. It's okay.
We've gotten some more clients since then. That's good.
Fine. We
Yeah.
figured it out.
Maybe we should go back. That would be like our cleansing as we need to go back to. First, we have to figure out was it in Kansas City or Oklahoma because those are very different places.
They're very different. Since I'm so bad at directions, I'm gonna believe that it was Kansas City and that I'm totally wrong.
I do. I remember what potential client it was too.
I do too. I do too. So
So that
I
was
remember that part. We could Google it.
We could Google it and see where they're at. We'll find out. One of us will be right and one of us will be wrong. And that's what we want to leave you with at the end of this podcast is if you believe you are right, dig in.
Dig in.
Take on the world. Come out at an 11. Just tell
Decades
everybody.
later, fight your position.
Yeah. Leave no bodies behind you. Just burn it all down. Burn it all down because you are right. And that is the no. Hope you pick up that we're being tongue in cheek there. Actually, the opposite. Like, be a little humble, recognize you might be wrong, dial it down, check yourself, ask yourself the question, what really created that? And then deal with the source issue if it really is something that's chronically bothering you. And Diana, great advice. Thank you for that. Like, I had never heard that before. We talked about this literally yesterday, and I was like, man, that's really good. So I'm already going backwards and unpacking lots of sixes, sevens, eights, nines, and tens in my life and going like, why did I react like that? That's great. So hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next time, wherever we're going to be, whether it's Oklahoma or Kansas City or turning left, turning right, whatever it is. Just know you found the right podcast and we're glad to be here for you.
Thank you for listening to the People Centric Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.